Welcome to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco, bringing you interviews with industry experts and regular folks who tested the job search waters and succeeded, and strategies to tell your story and land your job interviews in 60 days, guaranteed. Here's your host, Virginia Franco.
Hey guys, I have with me today networking coach Gus Lawson. After finding himself unemployed back in 2015 and deciding whether to launch his own business or find full-time employment, he recognized that his network was in poor shape. So after a lot of due diligence, he discovered how to gain comfort with in-person and online networking and developed an approach to help others combine career planning and networking tactics with simple, repeatable steps to strengthen and expand their own networks. Gus is a proud U.S. Navy vet and stays connected with the military community by providing networking workshops for the USO Pathfinder Program, hiring our heroes, and vets to industry. Gus, you and I met on LinkedIn, but I don't really know how exactly how that transition came about. So I'd love to hear from you how you got started, and welcome.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much, Virginia. It's just a pleasure to be here. So, yeah, I was really in this conundrum in 2015. I knew that I wanted to get my coaching credential, and so I had just finished that, and I was looking to, use that in some capacity. And so I knew that I needed to, it's not like Field of Dreams where you build it and they will come, right?
No, it does not.
So I knew I had to start throwing myself out there. And thankfully, the coaching program that I went through, it wasn't just about coaching methodologies. There was a lot of talk about business development as well. So that really helped me start to think about networking in a different way as well. And then, I knew that I wanted to give back to the military community as well. So I started, there's the Veterans Mentor Network on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I started to, just socialize there, and I'm going to throw her name out as well. And so one of my fantastic networks or mentors is Patricia Frame. She goes by Patra.
Uh-huh.
And connected with her, and she gave me some opportunities. We met face to face. I started helping there. And I wasn't really sure about, the networking thing wasn't clear to me at that point. I was just kind of more general, helping military folks transition. And then Patra actually connected me with Susan Joyce. And so I was really kind of still finding myself. I did some writing for her. And then through my own networking, that's when I got connected through the USO Pathfinders Program. And they asked me to present on networking. And then it just kind of hit me. And I guess that's a theme, and we'll go in more detail on that. But then I realized, you know what? I've got a story to tell around networking. And so that's what really allowed me to focus on the networking piece.
And so do you work primarily or exclusively with veterans transitioning from the military to corporate, or do you work with all job seekers?
So I'm going to be fully honest with you, because I think that's important. While I've developed a lot of content around helping other introverts gain comfort with networking, or even those that are comfortable with networking, but are just looking for a tool to help them continue to maintain their network, so reach out to stay connected with people that maybe they've lost touch with. Well, I've developed content to help people there. When I was unemployed, I had to dip into my 401k. And to be honest, still paying the tax penalties associated with that. And as we discussed before the call, living in the Northern Virginia area, high cost of living.
Yeah.
So I'm not fully a networking coach. I do have a 9 to 5 that I specialize in helping the federal government handle change
Oh, wow.
and go through
Okay.
change management aspects. So, and recognizing that COVID has hit and there's just so many people out there, what I've committed to doing right now, and as I'm getting stable in my own actually new job, so I've been on a new job for about 2 months,
Oh,
is I'm
congrats.
just,
Okay.
yeah, so thank you so much. So all of my content is free. I've got an online course for people to help them better strengthen their networks to really become the strategic achiever that they want to be. I've got a spreadsheet that people can download for those that may be, you know, not necessarily recognize the value of networking, or for those that maybe do recognize the value of networking, but they've just got some real negative beliefs associated with networking. I've got, a mini course that can help them reframe and reshape those beliefs. So a long-winded answer to say, I'm not really doing one-on-one coaching.
Okay.
But I've got a lot of content out there to really help those that maybe need to strengthen their network as well.
I love that. And, so many people can certainly now and in other sort of crises, although this one's one of the worst, can identify with having to go into your savings to make ends meet, and then juggling two roles, either because you want to, have some stability while you are testing out the waters of something new. There's lots of people, and I know in the coaching and career space that do that, just that. There's, I think a lot. But I do have a link to, and we'll share it again at the end, but I have a link in your bio that will be all over the place with that includes a link to all of that free content. So thank you. So I'd love to hear, and I'm sure the fact that you work with large scale organizations and help them manage change. I know there's lessons that are applicable to the individual trying to tackle change. I'd love to hear from you. What are a couple of challenges that are facing people testing the waters, or trying to make a change today? And I'd love to hear your response from a networking angle. What are the biggest challenges that people are finding?
Sure, I think focusing on the networking piece, I think the biggest things where people, the big showstopper is people feel like they have to be somebody other than who they are. And that is a complete myth, complete misnomer. You don't have to be somebody else. In fact, there's some real strengths about being an introvert when it comes to networking. Is number one, really embrace our listening skills. And we're able to put our energy into other people. And by asking, them questions and putting the emphasis on them, people will react to that in a very positive manner, so that if we're giving them the space to hear what they have to say, and then we put our connectors hats on as we're listening, and we say, all right, well, here's what I'm hearing. Who can I connect them with? And make those powerful introductions and give first. And by doing that, we're automatically elevated, and people will remind us, or people will remember us fondly as a result of that. So that just boosts our standing within the people that we interact with. So that's the number one way that we can really, really strengthen our networking. And that's, again, we don't have to be, we don't have to pretend to be someone else. So that's, I think, the most critical thing with respect to networking.
I love that. There is a myth that networking is for extroverts. And while some extroverts might find it easier to talk with a stranger, listening is a whole different topic. And you're right. I think that proper listening leads to more thoughtful conversations. And people are going to remember that you're a great listener. And I love that. What is there something that sort of has surprised the people that you coach or that you share information with around networking? Things that, aside from you don't have to be an extrovert to make it happen, is there anything else that sort of catches them off guard?
I think the most powerful one, and this one isn't as applicable today, just because most of our networking is virtually.
Yeah, pre-COVID.
But pre-COVID, one of the most powerful pragmatic tips is if you're in a group or in a large networking format, it can be easy to kind of just be that butterfly on the wall and sit back and observe. And the reason there, and what I found, and this is where my change management experience ties in, is to really provide really specific and concrete tips that are very actionable. And so that specific tip is look for groups of 3, right? Because there are those that are comfortable going into 2 people that are talking and interrupting the discussion, whereas I was not. I never was comfortable standing outside of 2 people because they're having a conversation. I don't want to interrupt that. So the actionable tip there is look for groups of 3 or larger groups. Because when you insert yourself into that group, and yes, you're interrupting again, but open with that. Hey, sorry to interrupt. I just saw that you guys are having this powerful conversation, and I just wanted to listen in and be a part of it. And then step back or, even ask, what was it you guys were talking about, so that they can continue the discussion. And then what happens is you'll find that one person is naturally less engaged in that discussion. And now you can kind of use your body language to orient yourself to that person. And now you can peel them off and have that one-on-one discussion.
So that's your window for entry. So Are you saying look for a group that's at least 3? Or is there a number where you say, you know what, avoid a group this big because it's just too challenging to jump in?
I'd say, at 3, and then I'll be honest with you, this wasn't my tip, but through one of the workshops, somebody shared this and I loved it. So, he just dangled a $10 bill and he said, excuse me, did somebody drop this?
Oh, that's perfect.
and then people got his attention and he just inserted his way into the group. So there's lots of different tactics. And the premise that I like is think of it as a laboratory, right? Because what works for me may not work for somebody else. So as we're exploring our space and looking to get comfortable about networking, try something. And if it works, great, keep it. If it doesn't, figure out what it was about it that didn't work and, then try something else based off of that. So, you asked earlier about, what's kind of a really big tip. And I think that's aligned with that is just that growth mindset perspective of, what? I know I may not be good at this today, but if I keep working at it, keep trying, eventually I will get better at it. So if you don't mind, the analogy there is, go back to when we first started driving and how many thoughts were in our head, or whether it's a new hobby or, golf. Anytime we're doing something that's involved and intricate, we're putting so much thought and energy into that because it's a new behavior.
Yeah, that learning curve just makes there's so many more things you have to be thinking about. But once you know it, you can don't have to focus. Do you have any advice in this COVID era for people? Because it's going to be probably one-on-one, right? It's harder to.
So 2 things there. Yes, while it is primarily one-on-one or one-on-one, so reach out to those that you haven't connected with in a while. Rekindle those relationships. Oftentimes, people are hesitant to do so because they'll think, oh well, they know that I probably need something, and I'm reaching out to that. Well, reflip or flip that and say, hey, I was just thinking of you the other day, and I'll never forget you for this reason. And so, for example, my old next door neighbor, we keep in touch. Usually it's every 3 or 4 months. There have been periods where sometimes it's been a year since we've connected. And so just the other day, I'm a big Steelers fan. He's also a Steelers fan, but he's from San Diego. So I got my new license plates in that say Mean Joe Green. I just texted him a picture of it. And he called right away. So just those little things to rekindle those relationships is tip number one. Tip number two is find those groups where you have common interests, whether it's on the professional side, whether it's on the hobby side. So, for example, thanks for mentioning Vets to Industry. I'm going to throw out a plug to them. They have networking events every three weeks, and they're big calls, 250 people. And they've actually done and have these breakout groups where there's, they break those 250 people up into small groups of 8 people or so that you can develop a little bit stronger connections with people. And then the key thing is just, really explore, what you might have in common with these people. And so if somebody clicks on your LinkedIn profile, look back at it and say, okay, oh, well, this person's also from this area. Or, hey, they went to a rival school. Or, hey, they went to my same school. Or, oh, what else might you have in common?
Something to be that icebreaker.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny when people, I agree with you, people are worried about reaching out to maybe connections that are a little bit more ignored than others. But I can tell you, I've never been offended when someone reached out to me after a while. I'm just always so happy to hear from them. So I think that sometimes that fear might be a little bit misguided, especially if you come at it with, I know it's been a while. I always think of you when. I mean, who could be mad at that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. So is there something that sort of just drives you crazy when it comes to networking? Huge networking faux pas that you see people sort of doing over and over again just drive you nuts?
I don't see it frequently. But so 2 things. In person is the person that does the drive-by business cards. So they meet you and immediately they hand you their business card. They're like, okay.
I see that on LinkedIn and virtual.
Yeah.
Hi, let's connect. Here's your business deal.
Yeah. Somebody just reached out to me today on LinkedIn and, hey, I see you just changed jobs. And, well, I'm a wealth manager and I can send you information on, like, do you kiss somebody 5 minutes within meeting them?
Yeah.
Of course not.
There's no warm up to the relationship.
Yeah. You've got to build that relationship. We buy from people we know and trust, and you gotta build on that.
I agree. I don't know about you, but I feel like the drive-bys are growing on LinkedIn. And maybe it's because they can't do as much in person. And so they've got to resort to that, but it's making my inbox quite full. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just had a thought there, Virginia. Do you mind if I share it?
No, of course not.
So the thought there being is that also is aligned with a lot of the concerns that introverts will have with networking is, how do I put myself out there? And so, I don't want to be seen as pushy. I don't want to be this really self-promotional type person. And so that's where the career mission statement, I think, really comes in handy. And so it's reframing it as to not what do you do, but who do you help? And so when you reframe it as, I help these people accomplish this, and these are the results that they see. Now, yes, you are putting it out there, but what are the costs of not putting yourself out there?
And it's a caring capacity. And that, to your earlier point about people feeling like they need to be inauthentic, being pushy or self-promotional probably does feel inauthentic, but focusing on, this is how I help. These are the This is how I resolve pain. That can feel much more authentic.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
no, and it has immensely helped me as well.
I like that.
Yep.
It feels more genuine. It is more genuine.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for someone who is they're looking to explore making a career change? Do you have sort of a couple of one-off networking tactics that you think are helpful for those kind of folks?
I think it's just acting. And so the analogy I use here is, even if you're not sure what's next, the analogy I use is a tropical depression, that's in the eastern Atlantic, or as I saw the weather today, we've got 2 right now.
Yeah, I just did hurricane cleanup last weekend. Yeah, so we have a place in Southeast North Carolina, and it got pummeled.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay. Well, go ahead. I allow you to continue with your hurricane analogy.
But so when that tropical depression first begins, if you throw the spaghetti charts, where that hurricane's going to land, it's a wide swath. Typically, we don't know where exactly it's going to land.
That's true.
And so as we are looking to make a career change, think of ourselves as that tropical depression. But if we don't act, we're going to stay unresolved. But if we do act, in other words, moving westward, we're going to develop some momentum. We're going to strengthen, and we're going to gain resolution about where we are. So as I look at my situation, I mentioned that I did some mentoring. I wasn't, it was really broad. But then as I did it more and more, someone connected me with somebody else. And it was through that spark that I said, oh yeah, I need to focus on networking. And so that would have never happened if I would have just wondered, okay, well, what's next? But by the act of me, or by me taking the action of saying, all right, well, let me just at least start. That's going to, throw out into the universe that, yes, here's what I'm doing. And then people are going to pick up on that energy. And it could be that maybe I fell flat, but that's okay. That's a signal. That's telling me that, all right, how do I want to reframe it? How do I want to, what did I learn from that so that I can take other action? And then you move down that path. So it's through that part of acting that we will gain clarity about what it is we want to do when we change. And the big thing there is it really strengthens our networking. And so, I look at those that are transitioning out of the service where it's a blessing and a curse, because a lot of transitioning service members have a wide swath of skills.
Yeah.
Whether it's in project management, whether it's in HR, whether it's in leadership, whether it's in this.
No, they've had to wear
function.
So many hats at such a young age.
Yep, absolutely. And so the problem, so that's a blessing and it's valuable, but the curse is when they try to transition that and land in their first role, they try to say, well, I can do this, I can do that,
right.
I can do that, and I can do that. Well, your messaging isn't focused. And so, and it's not clear to prospective employers what they want to be. But when they clarify and they say, this is the type of problem I want to solve, this is the type of organization I want to work for, then the networking becomes a lot more crystal clear. And not only that, but they can step away from the one and done discussions. So when we're not clear about what we want, we may have a lot of discussions, but we may not have follow-on discussions as a result.
Yeah, you're right. The conversations stop.
Yep.
So it sounds like you're saying people need to become a hurricane, go from tropical depression to hurricane, because that's when the things strengthen and the spaghetti models start to come closer together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So for example, from 2015 to 2019, I was that tropical depression with respect to networking or with respect to kind of career coaching. So I was just a generalist, and the other downside there is a lot of other generalists will view you as competition, and so less likely to build relationships with you. And then once I realized, oh no, I want to focus in on networking, then people started to come to me. They said, oh, you know what? I've not seen that before.
Yeah.
So by specializing, I started attracting additional people. So now, career coaches or others can say, hey, you know what? You're doing something that I'm not. I'd like to connect with you, and perhaps we can develop a symbiotic relationship there. So there's just so many benefits of really refining and defining your brand and getting really specific about who it is that you want to help.
And you feel like people can gain clarity on that by focusing on not what you do, but how you can help. Yep. And what you can solve. I love that.
Yep.
So and maybe it's the same answer, but we talked about someone who is looking to begin a job search. What about someone who has been job searching and it is not going well? Or maybe, they've been, or maybe their networking isn't going well. How do you sort of recommend they regroup to figure out what's going wrong?
Yeah, I think the big thing there is to kind of break it down, from a career development perspective into what isn't working. So for example, a lot of people, at least on the introverted side, they will, focus on whether it's Indeed or, LinkedIn jobs, and they'll do the job search lottery death spiral.
Right. The stuff it's in their comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of advice out there, tailor your resume. I really kind of cringe when I see it. So if you're given a specific opportunity through your network, then yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But the death spiral is, oh, well, I see this, and so let me retailer this. And now they're spending 5 or 6 days or 6 hours a day behind the computer, just sending off resumes. So if that's not working for you, then absolutely you need to start, networking more. And again, I've got tons of resources that defines what networking is to try and really get as crystal clear and specific to really help people there.
No, I agree. I mostly write the resumes. I write the collateral, even though I have a coaching certificate, and I am the first one to say that the best written resume often just doesn't do that well applying online, because so many jobs are filled. The pipelines are filled through referrals, through networking. So I want a resume that will do well when submitted online, but I don't want the online piece to be the first point of entry. Find out about opportunities and then and my husband just landed this way, last year, and they called and said after he'd had those discussions, and they said, hey, the posting's coming out now, go apply. That's the fast track. Yeah. I've seen it over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, that's how I got my current job. Yeah, my contract was ending in September this year. And someone that I connected with through an HR leader support group in the Northern Virginia area, I just built a relationship with her about 2 or 3 years ago. And one of my government clients said, hey, are you able to support us on this? And my current company didn't have the capacity to do that. And knowing that it was a very small company, I was, starting to look and say, all right, well, what else is out there? And so I took that opportunity to my colleague that was with the company that could support that client. And while that opportunity really wasn't there, the discussion, I was able to meet the VP in that company. And then she says, well, is Gus interested in coming on board? And so I had and this is all during COVID, I had an interview, and it was, I hate to say it, just kind of a check the block, make sure he's not a freak.
Right.
Type interview.
It's literally like the fast pass at Disney World.
Yeah.
When it all comes together.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I was able to fool them that I wasn't a freak. I'm just kidding, of course. Okay, maybe not. But and so then came the offer, and it was, I wasn't wrecking myself. I was exploring other opportunities as well, building my network, continuing to see what else was out there. And sure enough, hey, this one looks really interesting. And it's been a fantastic ride. And so, yeah, networking.
It does work. So I'm curious to hear your views on this next question as it relates to networking. There's always been talk about discrimination, and it certainly has come to the forefront, in the last few months. In terms of obstacles to hiring, age discrimination, ethnicity, race, gender, all of that. What's your thoughts on it? And do you have any advice to sort of navigate that?
Yeah, I think networking is the best way to work around that. I'm 48 years old, and so I had started to realize, hey, I'm starting to be on the other side of the
end.
spectrum.
Yeah, welcome to the club.
and so what did I do? So yeah, my resume only goes back 15 years. I think I'm pretty well. I am tech savvy, so that's not a constraint. But it's through the networking that, hey, oh yeah, here's a relationship. Here's this person, and then you've already made that connection, and they're looking past all those things because they're already looking for you there.
Yeah.
And I guess, forgive me, because, it's just been really, really troublesome, seeing what's transpired with George Floyd's death. And it pains me because I've had some conversations with people of color, and hearing that, their family made deliberate decisions to give someone a white sounding name so that they could be seen differently than on paper. It's really
awful. I know.
It's just really troubling that we have to see that. And so, forgive the little soapbox here, but I just really encourage people on all sides. Obviously, for those that are employing or applying for jobs, be yourself. Don't hide who you are. Keep pushing forward. But I just encourage, if you have recruiters or hiring managers that are listening to this, really think of your unconscious bias. And so if you see a name that doesn't sound Caucasian, that isn't Caucasian, please just check your bias and please give them the due shot that they deserve.
Yeah. No, I agree that awareness is so important because bias exists. What are and I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. I've always said, use LinkedIn to sort of look at the pictures of people. Because a lot of companies talk about being, supporting diversity and inclusion, but then when you look at their employee rosters, maybe not. Do you encourage them to take a look and target companies where it seems like they walk the walk?
I think that is important. Absolutely. Okay. Because there is a big difference in saying, oh, well, yeah, we recognize, and this isn't the best analogy, but it's the one that comes to mind, is it's kind of like how Bill Murray would add vermouth to his martinis. He would just whisper it in, not add a single drop of vermouth. to his martini. But anyway, so the point there being that, companies can give it lip service, but are they really taking action?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm just excited to be with my current employer. There's a small company, but they're putting action behind it.
I love that.
Standing up a diversity and inclusion group, really. And as you do look across the employees, they brought me in as someone who's older, and there's lots of diversity, not only in people's heritage, but just diversity of thought, and just this really open and inclusive company.
Oh, that sounds, that sounds wonderful. The point about going back to your earlier responses around the age, I work with a lot of clients that are, the 40s and 50s, and you said I'm tech savvy. I went focus on the last 15 years. I feel like you have to think about what those biases are and what is within your control to overcome those. The perception or the concern around people that are older is that they can't handle technology, that they're stuck in their ways. And so whatever you can do to show that you're continuously learning, that you don't need to be a programmer, but that you're comfortable around common workplace technology, whatever is required for that job. Those are the kinds of things that are within your control to help mitigate the bias. And when someone knows you and can be your champion on that sort of thing, they vouch for you, that speaks volumes and really does help to lower that barrier to entry.
Yep, absolutely. And this may not be directly related, but it reminds me of a tip that I think is important. Oftentimes, a lot of people, as they're looking to build their network, and, because obviously, as you mentioned, to overcome those biases, networking is critical. And so the specific tip that I want to share there is, don't just rely on LinkedIn to reach out to people. You can use that as a good starting point. Mm-hmm. And so by all means, reach out to them, whether it's through InMail, whether it's through, sending them a customized invitation that, includes a personal message. But again, ease into it, just see what's there. And if you don't get a response, don't take that as no, because if it's really important to you, but there's a website, and there's lots of different websites, but one that jumps out to me is hunter.io, where you plug in that company's, company
email.
And then you'll see what their typical email format is. So whether it's first name _ last name, first initial ._ last name, whatever. And then you can, just send your email directly to them and reach out that way. And that's been effective for me as well. Just to reach out. I know, there was, in using employee referrals as well. And so I was considering Capital One. I had a buddy that was trying to bring me into Capital One. And he, I saw a post, and I could do the intel, figure out who the hiring manager was. And I sent her a note. And I think that really helped, as far as me being considered, me being brought in for the interview, me being, going past the first round. So I think all that stuff is really, really helpful.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And the other thing that I was just going to say, and this goes back to earlier, is I know it's hard and we have our hard days, but you got to just keep pushing, stay positive, and keep taking action. And you just have to keep pushing through, because someone's no will be someone else's yes.
Yeah, I agree. And that's to me, we're having a accountability partner, or someone else to help you when you do have those rough times, can help to pick you up and help you keep pushing through. You mentioned Hunter IO. The other tool that I love for getting emails, and I have yet to be able to stump it, is MailScoop. MailScoop IO. It has been spot on, completely free.
Excellent.
So Let me ask you, this is one of my favorite questions. Someone approaches you at a party and says, I'm going to job search. I'm getting ready to start looking. What are two things that I absolutely have to get started? What say you?
So number one is, it goes back to that mission statement. Who do you want to help? Knowing where you want to be. And so I think that's most critical. Yep. And then number two, don't assume that people won't help you.
Sort of check your assumptions.
So check your assumptions. And then as you're doing that, obviously you're letting your network know. And then you're reconnecting with them. Ideally you're staying connected with them so that, when it comes time to you needing something, you're not uncomfortable making that ask. And then, just looking to help others as well. And so it's through that selflessness that people are more willing to help as well.
Yeah, that's why I love the idea of the mission statement framed within a helping context. It's powerful. It really does resonate when you do that.
Yep.
So last question, then I will let you go for the day. You just started a new job. You have this website where you are offering free resources. What is next for you?
Thanks for asking. I'm gonna take a tangent there, but I'll bring it back, I promise. So I think the thing there is I really want people to embrace themselves. And the reason why I say that is after getting my coaching credential, I had this idea in my head that I needed to distance myself away from technology because coaches aren't involved in technology. And then I realized at my last client that I can't let it go. The technology will be very powerful here.
Well, if it's part of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in the last 4 or 5 months, I developed this interactive change management guide that transforms a 80-page document into one screen that allows people to click, find out what's next, find mentors, really gives them all of that just comfort of knowing, oh, here's what's expected of me. Here's what I need to do in this step. And it also balances being too prescriptive. So it's not, there's freedom for people to make decisions there. So bottom line is, if I wouldn't have embraced that technology, then I would have put my clients at a disservice. So I embraced that technology and was able to influence my client to use it. And so what's next for me is, now that I'm with a new employer that does focus on strategic communications, change management, we're actually meeting a little bit later today to talk about creating the center of excellence for change management within our small company, so that we can really create these powerful solutions to help our government work better. And so I'm just super excited by that opportunity. It's been really, really powerful. I look forward to also continuing to give back and, help more introverts gain comfort with networking. And so that's what's next. It's just, the more we put ourselves out there, the more that we thrive, the better off we are. And if you forgive me, that's just one other tangent. Helping introverts gain comfort with networking isn't just about the career search.
That's
it's
true.
It's about their role when they're in their company. And the story here is that 6, 7 years ago, I believed that my management would take care of me. Right. Well, what got me unemployed is when my management ended up leaving the firm. I found myself on a new team, and the company restructured, and I found myself unemployed. And so I wasn't an advocate for myself.
Yeah.
So
you didn't have those skills. Yeah, those networking skills, you're right. They can carry on throughout all parts of your life, truly.
Yep. And so within the 2 months that I've been with the company, now granted it's a smaller company, we've got about 120 employees, but I've done things in the last 2 months that I never would have done before.
Wow.
So number one, after attending the company all hands, I found people that I have things in common. I reached out to them. I said, hey, interested in learning more. My first week, I asked my manager, I said, who do you think I should connect with? She gave me a couple of people.
You're building your network. You're building your long-term network.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your network I've never thought of it as something that you put on the shelf and then dust it off. It's a lifelong network for lifelong purposes.
Yep. And so while I'm considerably less active on LinkedIn, it doesn't mean I'm stopped networking. I'm just shifted I'm networking.
That's right. No, I love that. So if people want to connect with you, I have shared your LinkedIn and I have shared the Networking Lab website here. Is there any other place that I should direct or the people should go to reach out to you or to connect?
So a shameless plug here.
Okay.
I alluded to in the last little bit that, helping the federal government with, really adopting change. If that's piqued anybody's interest, I've referenced the company, but I didn't give the name. I work with Active Resources.
Okay.
We're excited because we learned in the last week or so, we're number 390 on the Inc. 5000 list. So there's just some really, really cool stuff. In fact, one of the projects at our company's all hands, they're doing some processing for VBA where they would get so many, VBA is the Veterans Business Administration within the Department of Veterans Affairs. And they get so much mail with respect to veterans' questions about their benefits or just a whole slew of mail that they get.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So what we've been able to do is help automate the process so that mail, instead of being opened, read manually, it's all being scanned, automated, and it's helping to save weeks and weeks of time for processing. So just one of the cool things that we're doing. Lots of cool things that we're doing. So if anybody is interested in that from federal government, or I can imagine my leadership would also be interested in helping commercial companies as well. But so stay tuned for more on that.
Well, thank you. And you've given such great tips. I know that you focus a lot on introverts, but I really do feel like a lot of this advice serves extroverts as well. So very much appreciated.
Great. Thank you so much, Virginia.
Take care.
Yes, I really enjoyed our time together. I appreciate this so much. And if there's anything that I can do to help you in the future, I'm all ears for you.
You've been listening to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco. To learn more about storytelling strategies to catch the eye of today's SCIM online readers, hiring and decision makers, go to www.virginiafrancoresumes.com.